Discover the incredible moment at the bank. My daughter's shocking betrayal revealed by one note. Jim leaned back in his chair, the weight of his role as bank manager pressing down on him like a thick fog. The usual chatter of colleagues drifted through the break room, but today it felt muted, lacking its usual warmth. As he poured his coffee, his thoughts wandered to Emily, his teenage daughter, who had recently dropped out of college. The realization gnawed at him. His little girl, once filled with dreams shaped by his values of integrity and loyalty, was now pursuing a future in social media, something he simply couldn't understand. Then he spotted something crumpled in the corner of the break room. Curiosity piqued, he picked it up. It was a note, hastily written, and as he unfolded it, his heart sank. The words leapt out at him, accusing and dark. Sell client info for a glam life, it read, a dagger plunged into his chest. Betrayal tore through him like wildfire, consuming all the pride he had in his parenting. The daughter he thought he knew was slipping through his fingers like sand. His mind raced. How could she consider this? The very foundation of trust he built with her seemed to crumble. As he held the note, a cocktail of emotions boiled within him, disbelief, fury, and a heavy sadness. Was this all his fault? He thought of the late nights spent at the bank, the weekends away when Emily needed him most. Had he stifled her ambitions with his steadfast principles? Doubts swirled around, colliding with images of Emily's innocence, her laughter, her youthful dreams that seemed so far away now. Before he could gather himself, the break room grew noisy again, but it felt like static to him. He placed the note back on the counter, heart racing, breathing irregularly. He needed a plan, some way to confront her, demand answers from this stranger claiming to be his daughter. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. He knew the confrontation wouldn't just be a discussion, it would be a battle of wills. As he drove home that evening, the car radio buzzed, but he couldn't hear it above the thundering of his thoughts. Hadn't he always tried to teach her the importance of hard work and ethics? The community they lived in wouldn't forgive this kind of betrayal. He would be branded as a failure as a father. Home loomed closer, but he felt trapped within its walls, suffocated by uncertainty and dread. When he finally entered, he found Emily in her room, lost in her digital world, a sanctuary that felt more like a prison to him. The clash of their worlds stood before him, and he didn't know how to breach the divide. With every beating moment of silence, the tension built, and the words he longed to say lodged in his throat. He felt himself teetering on the brink of an emotional chasm, desperate for resolution yet terrified of what the truth might reveal. Would she hear him, or would the girl he loved become a ghost, swallowed by her ambitions? As he prepared to speak, every moment stretched taut, heavy with the weight of their unspoken truths, leaving them both teetering on the edge of a precipice with no clear direction forward. Jim stood at the threshold of Emily's room, the familiar comfort of home now feeling more like a battleground. He took a deep breath, attempting to steady his racing heart, his mind a storm of conflicting emotions. Confrontation was necessary, but he was acutely aware of the stakes. Was he prepared to face the reality behind the note? The father in him urged caution, while the bank manager demanded clarity. Emily, he called, his voice wavering slightly as it echoed through the silence. No immediate response. He crossed the room slowly, his footsteps heavy with the weight of unspoken words. He had preached the virtues of honesty and loyalty all her life. Now he stood on the brink of questioning her very principles. It was a painful paradox. Can we talk? He said, determination creeping into his voice, bolstered by necessity. Deep down, he feared what lay beyond this conversation. Would it bring understanding or further chaos? Finally, Emily stopped scrolling on her phone and turned, her expression veiled with a mix of defiance and curiosity. There was a flicker of hesitation in her eyes before she spoke. You seem tense. What's up? It was a nonchalant question, but Jim felt an urgency thrumming beneath the surface. I found something today. He paused, choosing his words carefully. A note in the break room. The shift in her demeanor was immediate. What did it say? Emily, it's not about what it said. It's about what it means. This isn't just an idea you toy with in your head, this is serious. He took a step closer, his voice lowering but gaining intensity. Selling client information? It's not just unethical, it's illegal. Wariness crept into her features, mixed with something he hadn't expected: fear. Dad, you're reading too much into this. No, he countered, his conviction growing. I don't understand why you'd even consider this path. You've always wanted more for yourself, so why this? As she opened her mouth to respond, Jim caught a glimpse of vulnerability. Beneath the bravado was a young woman wrestling with her choices, battling values he thought she held dear. She hesitated, and in that moment of silence, he realized he had not merely been the father figure, he had also been a barrier, and in doing so, he may have stifled her true self. Maybe I'm tired of doing things your way, she finally blurted, anger and sadness intertwining in her voice. You're so stuck in your ideals, but the world isn't like that anymore. I just want to be free. He absorbed her words, every accusation a reflection of her struggle against the very standards he held sacred. The revelation stirred something within him. Perhaps he needed to let go to understand the world through her eyes instead of imposing his own judgment. Since when did freedom mean losing yourself to shortcuts? He responded, desperate to steer her back. Since I realized doing it your way doesn't guarantee success, she shot back, anger spilling into her words, a surge of pent-up frustration. Maybe I want a life that's about more than just hard work, I want to enjoy the ride. Jim processed her outburst. It echoed a truth he had overlooked. He had been so focused on molding Emily into a version of success that conformed to his ideals that he neglected to see her passionate, explorative spirit. Emily, what if there's a way to succeed without compromising who you are? He suggested. The idea sparked a seed of hope within him, an evolving sense of parental guidance that wasn't about control, but partnership. But as his words hung in the air, he realized that the confrontation wasn't just about reproach. It was a moment of transformation for both of them. He saw a flicker of curiosity in her eyes, a faint glimmer that perhaps she could reclaim her ambitions without betraying her integrity. Maybe, she said quietly, her gaze softening. But you have to let me find my own way. The conversation hung there, oscillating between a fragile hope and a precipice of unfamiliar territory. Was he ready to loosen the grip he had held for so long? As he watched her expression shift, Jim sensed that they were on the brink of something profound, a change not just for Emily, but for himself. What would it mean for their relationship moving forward, and how would a reevaluation of their ideals shake the very foundations of their lives? In that moment, as understanding began to weave its way through the tension, Jim knew the time had come to face the true depth of their conflict. Would he find the courage to bridge the gap between their differing paths? The silence that followed Emily's remark settled like a heavy fog in the room. Jim struggled to find a foothold in the conversation, realizing that this wasn't just about the note, it was a pivot point in their relationship. The weight of her words lingered, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he had become part of the problem rather than its solution. Finding your own way doesn't mean losing yourself, Emily, he said, his tone softer now, as if he were trying to coax out the daughter he once knew. It's about standing firm in your values while exploring options. There are ways to be ambitious without compromising. Emily leaned against her desk, arms crossed defiantly. He noticed how the familiar signs of her childhood, her long, wild hair and the bright paint splatters on her nails, were overshadowed by a hardened exterior. Was that the price of wanting more in a world that seemed dog-eat-dog? I get what you're saying, she replied, her voice steady but laced with frustration. But I want to be more than just your daughter, your image of success. I want to break free from the mold. I'm tired of following your blueprint for life. Her words struck him like arrows, piercing through the armor of fatherly pride he had built. Perhaps he had been so consumed with ensuring she would never face his hardships that he forgot to equip her with the tools to navigate her path. What about your ideas? What do you value? He pressed, eager to shift the focus from conflict to understanding. Emily hesitated before answering, her composure wavering. Respect. Adventure. Security without sacrificing my integrity. I just want to explore life on my terms. Each word she spoke unraveled years of embedded expectations that he had placed upon her shoulders. What did it mean to be a father if it meant stifling his child's aspirations? As he stood there, battling within himself, he realized the fight was not solely against her choices but also against the person he had become in the pursuit of his ideals. His conversation with Emily spurred reflection on how he managed to climb the corporate ladder. He had often sacrificed personal relationships for professional milestones, and yet here he was, holding her to standards he had nearly abandoned himself. Let's say I were to support you, what would that look like? He asked, his eyes searching hers for a glimpse of the future they might build together. A spark lit her expression, flickering into something hopeful. I want to network. I want to meet people who can inspire me. I want to learn from those who've succeeded through passion, not just numbers on a board. Jim nodded, swallowing his pride. Then let us do that. I have connections in the industry. I can help you get your foot in the door. Emily's guarded demeanor began to crack, revealing a mixture of gratitude and skepticism. Are you sure, Dad? Because it feels like I'd be trading one set of expectations for another. Only if you let yourself be confined by them, he replied, feeling a tremor of genuine excitement. But I want to support you in ways that empower you to be true to yourself, not a reflection of me. The anticipation in her posture suggested an inner dialogue raging. The tantalizing possibility of carving her path without guilt was within reach but tangled in doubts. As they engaged in this exchange, Jim felt a release of tension, a realization that perhaps letting go didn't mean losing control but fostering growth. Let us explore this together, he offered, the weariness of confrontation giving way to a newfound sense of partnership. For the first time, Emily smiled, a subtle acknowledgement that they were crashing through the barriers set between them. Yet, deep inside, Jim was still haunted by the specter of the note. Had Emily genuinely reconsidered her path, or was it just a fleeting moment of compliance? What lay ahead felt both thrilling and precarious. As they stood on this precipice of possibility, uncertainty loomed larger than ever. Would he truly be able to recognize her autonomy, or would the whispers of fear and doubt drive a wedge? Between them once again, the answers were out there, waiting each step a test of their evolving relationship as shadowy truths threatened to uncover a betrayal that might cut deeper than either had anticipated. Jim spent the following days pondering the implications of his promise to Emily, living in a tumultuous zone where excitement battled doubt. Each evening he returned home, he weighed the balance between encouragement and caution. Could he strike the right balance, or was he stoking the flames of rebellion without intending to? He found himself often glancing at the now empty workspace that once burst with Emily's vibrant creativity. The absence of her paintings, once liberating, felt stifling in a different way. The colorful splashes of her ambition now overshadowed by an abstract cloud of misunderstanding twisted in his gut. As the week unfolded, Emily began to share snippets of her restructuring plans. She spoke hesitantly but with newfound enthusiasm about setting up meetings with potential mentors within her burgeoning network. Jim sat across from her, a melange of pride and fear swelling within him. She was asserting herself. Yet, with every word, he sensed the stakes of this new dynamic growing higher. Dad, I'm scheduled to meet someone from that design firm I mentioned, she declared one evening, her eyes lighting up with resolve. They are actually interested in lifestyle branding, which is where I want to focus. Wonderful, he replied, but the word felt heavy as it lingered in the air. Are you prepared for that kind of environment? Creative industries can be harsh. Exactly. They're harsh, but real, she countered, her voice steady. If I want to thrive, I need to step into it, flaws and all. He admired her conviction but wrestled with a fear that crept into the corners of his mind. Would that environment swallow her whole, stripping away the vibrant essence he had fought to protect? Determined to turn the conversation back to support, he said, I can help you prepare. I know quite a bit about corporate tactics, how to present yourself. But even as he spoke, he tasted the irony in his words. Was this offering anchored in simple parental care, Or did it stem from a darker inclination to mold her yet again? Dad, I appreciate it, but I need to voice my own concerns, not just adopt yours, Emily replied, her face shifting from excitement to apprehension. Their discussion danced around mutual discomfort, each emitting signals of uncertainty, though both tried to cloak them with affectionate intent. He respected that, but that respect felt like an iceberg visible on the surface, yet beneath lay an expanse of unacknowledged fears. Days turned into a blur until the day of her meeting arrived like a thundercloud over their lives. Emily dressed carefully, channeling her inner confidence, but as she turned to leave, an unexpected wave of vulnerability washed over her features. "What if I fail, Dad?" she whispered, a thin layer of vulnerability seeping through her tough facade. "Then we'll regroup," he offered, his voice scarcely masking his own doubt. "We'll redefine what it means to fail." As she stepped out the door, he held on to his breath, wrestling with a strange blend of pride and terror. To encourage her was profoundly freeing, yet it also placed him at a crossroads where his protective instincts collided with her aspirations. Was he truly prepared for this? The stakes felt immeasurably high as he processed his internal conflict. If she succeeded, would it affirm his new role as a supportive parent, or would he find himself grappling with a lurking longing for control? That evening, with anxious thoughts amplifying in the back of his mind, he stumbled upon the very note that had sparked their recent conflicts, still crumpled where Emily had left it. It was a pale specter of the underlying chaos in their relationship. He scanned the words, the message now tethered to several hidden layers that went beyond a simple plea for help. It whispered of deeper issues of fear, identity, and independence. Just then, the door flung open. Emily re-entered, her vibrant energy now subdued, but with a spark of discovery flickering in her eyes. "I need you to know something," she began, her voice trembling with urgency. "What is it?" As the tension unfurled. Within the space between them, the silence beckoned an impending revelation. The moment, potent and uncertain, loomed over him like a new path unfurling. The answer he didn't know he needed was about to ignite a pivotal shift in their struggles as father and daughter. Emily closed the door behind her with a soft click, the sound echoing in the stillness that had settled in the wake of her departure. Jim's eyes were fixed on her, anticipation charging the air. There was a certain gravity in her expression, as if she had been carrying the weight of a secret that needed to be unveiled. "I spoke with the mentor," she confessed, her voice tinged with both excitement and trepidation. "He was fantastic, Dad. He gets at my vision, my goals." But she trailed off, biting her lip, uncertain how to articulate the turmoil bubbling within. "But?" Jim pressed gently, feeling an urgency in her hesitation. "There was a moment where he asked me what I truly wanted," she continued, running a hand through her hair in frustration. "And all I could think about was what you wanted for me. It scared me, Dad." His heart twisted at her admission. Jim had believed he was encouraging her to pursue her dreams, yet he now reckoned with the realization that his intentions might have overshadowed her own desires. "Emily, I know, let me finish," she interjected, her eyes glistening with emotion. "I thought I was ready to dive in, but I felt this pull, this expectation. I can't just become what everyone wants or sees me as, even you." The words hit him like a cold slap, forcing him to confront the truth he wished to avoid. Jim realized his fears had been transposed onto her journey. In his desperation to protect her from failure, he may have unknowingly suffocated her budding independence. "Emily," he began again, now more cautious, more aware. "You should know I only ever wanted what was best for you." "Yes, but part of what's best is allowing me to explore my own path." She took a step closer, her determination shining through her earlier vulnerability. "I need to make choices for myself, not just to avoid disappointment." As they exchanged glances, a newfound understanding bloomed between them. This wasn't just about Emily's aspirations, it was a reckoning for both of them. Jim began to grasp that their relationship had morphed into something more intricate than he had envisioned. This was no longer a simple student-mentor dynamic, it was a negotiation of identities, his as a father, and hers as an emerging adult. "Let us approach this together then," he suggested, a cautious but sincere smile breaching his lips. "I will give you the space to define that journey. What steps can I take to support you without stifling your progress?" Taking a deep breath, Emily nodded, her earlier trepidation dissolving as hope sprang forth. I need to make decisions on my terms. Will you be there, just as a sounding board? I don't want to feel judged for wanting to try things, maybe even fail. Absolutely, he replied with conviction, realizing this moment was more crucial than any tactical advice he could offer. This was about trust, a lesson he had long overlooked in his parenting, one that would require him to release his grip and embrace the messy uncertainty of growth. As they began to outline her plans, laying down the framework for her exploration into the creative world she craved, Jim could feel a shift within himself. He pondered his own potential reinvention, considering how his role could evolve alongside hers. But just as they dove deeper into the conversation, Emily's expression froze. Her gaze moved from his face to the side of the room, a fleeting shadow passing across her features. Dad, what if I told you that the mentor mentioned something about a project I didn't share with you? Something to do with a competition they're running. What competition? Jim asked, feeling a ripple of anxiety. The stakes, he realized, were shifting once again, fraught with possibilities and unforeseen challenges. The moment hung tangibly in the air, weighty and filled with unspoken implications. They were stepping into uncharted territory, and he wasn't certain what lay ahead. Would this be another chapter of her independence, or a potential fracture in their fragile new understanding? Emily's next words promised to unveil layers of this revelation that could further redefine their relationship, and Jim couldn't shake the icy grip of uncertainty tightening around his heart, waiting for her to pull the trigger. Emily inhaled deeply, her heart racing as she contemplated the weight of her next words. It's a creative project aimed at emerging talents looking to make a mark in the industry, she finally revealed, her voice steady despite the churn of emotions within her. He wants me to submit a proposal by the end of the month. A proposal? Jim echoed, his mind flickering through the possible implications. On one hand, it was a remarkable opportunity, one that could elevate her career before it even began. Yet on the other, he felt the sharp pang of the unknown. This project could lead to accolades or a crushing disappointment. Do you know what the project entails? Emily's brow furrowed, searching for the right words. It's focused on innovative storytelling, integrating various multimedia elements. It's exactly what I want to do, but she hesitated again, glancing down as if uncertain about her own ambitions. What if I can't meet the expectations? Or what if you exceed them? Jim countered, his determination to bolster her courage surfacing once more. Emily's eyes met his, and for a heartbeat, the initial fear began to melt away, replaced by the flicker of possibility. But I'll have to present it myself, she continued, her voice dropping. What if they don't take me seriously? What if they look at me as just some kid with a dream? Each word tumbled with the urgency of self-doubt. Jim leaned forward, wanting to help her see beyond that fear. Emily, remember, you're not just a kid. You have ideas, you have vision, and this mentor clearly sees that in you. If you go into this project with that mindset, you can challenge the expectations, rather than be burdened by them. A determined gleam returned to Emily's eyes, but beneath her newfound resolve lay the rumble of internal conflict. You know, it's ironic. I feel trapped between wanting to impress others and needing to assert my own vision. It's as if every time I try to take a step forward, I get pulled back into this web of self-doubt. Then let's untangle it together, he offered, sounding more a partner than a father. He could sense her reticence dissipating, but there was also the familiar underlying tension, the lingering strains of their past conversations, tightly interwoven with expectations. What if we break down the requirements of the proposal? We can visualize what you want to create, crafting it together gives you a solid anchor to work from. Moments later, a renewed sense of momentum surged through the room. They began brainstorming, throwing ideas back and forth, filling pages with concepts and dark horse angles that Emily had felt too timid to explore before. Each suggestion bounced like the flick of a light switch, illuminating the paths she could take, sketching a world where she could fully embrace her aspirations. Yet, as they dove deeper into ambitious plans, Emily realized something was still missing: the confidence to embrace the flaws and uncertainties that could arise from this endeavor. What if I fail, Dad? What if I put everything into this and it doesn't come together? Then you learn, and you try again, Jim reminded her without hesitation. Every great journey is littered with mistakes and miscalculations. That's how you become stronger, and how you discover who you really are. At that moment, it was as if a veil had been lifted between them. Emily could sense her father's own fears rippling beneath the surface, mirrored in her own. It was a coexistence of vulnerability and strength that resonated deeply, punctuated by the realizations they were both having. They needed to embrace their fears together, but just as she was about to express her burgeoning courage, her phone chimed, startling them both. The notification flashed on the screen, a message from her mentor. "Dad, I need to check this," Emily mumbled, her heart racing again as she picked up the device. A new sense of urgency coursed through her, but tinged with an uncertainty she couldn't shake. What if this was the moment that shifted everything, good or bad? As she opened the message, her breath caught in her throat. The words leaped off the screen, igniting a fear she couldn't ignore. It hinted at competition details, stark expectations, and a timeline that felt overwhelmingly daunting. The weight of it pressed down upon her as Jim leaned in, curiosity etched on his face. "Emily, what does it say?" His voice was steady, but she could sense the tension re-emerging, an unyielding reminder of the stakes at play. The next words caught in her throat, unable to reconcile the excitement of opportunity with the burden of potential failure. Jim pressed gently, urging her to articulate the feelings swirling within. "Dad, what if I'm in over my head?" Emily felt the world tilt as she stared at the message, the weight of her dreams and fears converging into a single point of pressure within her chest. It says they're looking for the most innovative ideas. They want something that challenges norms." Her voice cracked, unsteady with a blend of exhilaration and apprehension. "Innovative ideas?" Jim echoed, his voice laced with a mix of pride and concern. "That sounds exactly like you. But what if innovative isn't enough? What if they're expecting something groundbreaking, and all I have are half-formed ideas?" The flood of self-doubt surged anew, threatening to drown her burgeoning resolve. "Emily, remember what we talked about," Jim insisted, contrasting her spiraling thoughts with his steady composure. "This is your chance to showcase your unique perspective. You have something to say, and you need to trust that." The room was charged, heavy with expectation and the invisible threads of their shared fears. Juggling the anxiety growing in her stomach, Emily's mind raced. What if I disappoint the people who believe in me? What if I let down my mentor, or, worse, failure is a part of any journey, he reminded her softly, the compassion in his voice surfacing once again. It isn't about the end result, but about the courage to try. Anyone who truly understands art knows that the risk of failure is embedded in the creative process. His words hung in the air, igniting a flicker of defiance within her. It wasn't merely an attempt to appease her fears, it was a rallying cry. She sat taller, pushing her thoughts in a more empowering direction. What if I embrace that risk? I mean, what if I use it to tell my story instead of trying to fit into what everyone else expects? That's the spirit. Jim encouraged, his voice growing warmer. Let your experiences shape this proposal. Your story is what makes it valuable. For a moment, Emily's mind quieted. The pieces of her fear and aspiration danced slowly and rhythmically, like leaves caught in a gentle breeze. But the moment shattered as reality rushed back. The pressure of the submission date loomed large. There was no time for hesitation. Okay, she breathed out slowly, her fingers clutching the edge of the table as if she could ground herself through it. What if I incorporate my upbringing into this? The struggles from childhood, the creativity that arose from my environment? It could connect with an audience in a way that feels authentic. Yes. There you go. Use your voice. It is your strength, Jim illuminated, excitement radiating from him. You have seen the world in unique ways, you can exploit that for your messaging. Emily nodded slightly, the tentative light of inspiration budding in her mind. But then, shadows crept back. What if it's still not enough? What if they dismiss me again, just like what? Jim's probing tone encouraged her to break through the last shroud of hesitation. She hesitated for a split second. Just like before, when I showed my work to my peers. I was told it wasn't serious enough, not academically sound. A flicker of resentment flared momentarily but transformed into motivation. Then show them the depth that your experiences bring, he reiterated firmly. Create a narrative that weaves through your project a story that cannot be ignored. Yes, I can do that, Emily affirmed, though the twinge of anxiety danced around her words, refusing to fade completely. I just need to put in the work. I have to trust my voice and fight against the impulse to succumb to others' judgments. As she envisioned days filled with writing and creativity, a sudden, intrusive thought struck her. What if she thrived? What if the project became a definitive turning point in her career? Do you think I can really do this, Dad? I know you can. It's about time you see it too, he answered, pride gleaming in his gaze. She felt an overwhelming urge to write, to channel her essence into the proposal. The call of self-determination rang louder than her doubts. Grabbing a fresh piece of paper, she began scribbling ideas. Pouring forth like water from a broken dam, each stroke embroiled in a mixture of hope and fear, determination and doubt. Hours slipped away as she worked, yet a knot remained tangled in her mind, resisting resolution. The looming competition itself felt like a storm cloud threatening to overshadow her newfound clarity. Would they see her as capable, or just another aspiring dreamer? Finally, she set down her pen, her thoughts racing. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the table where her ideas lay. Dad, what if I'm not just fighting against the competition? What if I'm also competing against what I was always told I am? Jim's silence filled the room momentarily before he finally spoke. The time has come to face those shadows, Emily. You owe it to yourself to step into the light. But just as she felt ready to confront that looming challenge, her phone buzzed again. A new message. It popped up on the screen like a sudden thunderclap, and Emily's heart dropped as she read the opening line. Congratulations on making it this far, but the competition just got tougher. Emily stared at the screen, her heart pounding in her chest. The words swam before her eyes, blending into a panorama of fear and uncertainty. She blinked, trying to regain her focus, to grasp what this twist meant for her burgeoning aspirations. Just take a breath, she whispered to herself, though the trembling in her hands betrayed her resolve. What could possibly come next? Did it mean more criteria to fulfill? More pressure to exceed expectations? She collected herself, reminding herself that she had just vowed to harness her fear. Now was the time to embrace those emotions, not to allow them to paralyze her. Jim sat across from her, his concerned gaze providing a semblance of comfort now tinged with urgency. What's the message say? Slightly shaking, Emily drew a deep breath. They said the competition got tougher. They want us to innovate more and push boundaries. I mean, it feels impossible. Her voice wavered as the enormity of the challenge loomed ominously in her mind. Challenge is a part of growth, you know that, Jim replied, his tone steady. You have to see it as that, an opportunity to refine your vision. She nodded, though the spark of doubt smoldered beneath her skin. Her mind ping-ponged through the scenarios. What if this was the moment where she fell flat, where all those hours in the studio didn't translate into something worthy? What if they deemed her a copycat, despite her unique voice? No, that's not how I'm going to look at this, she declared, shaking her head. Inspiration ignited in her core but was fraught with intensity. If there are more expectations, then I need to step up in ways I didn't think I would have to. There has to be something more I can bring. Exactly, Jim agreed, his eyes lighting up with understanding as she began to process her thoughts aloud. Instead of fearing what the competition may bring, think about what you can bring to them. What story do you want to tell? What creates genuine connection? The question quickly unraveled a trove of emotions within her. She envisioned the moments of her childhood, the laughter embedded in sorrow, the art stemming from chaos. These were her roots. How could she carve out a narrative that deeply connected those experiences with her present aspirations? Digging into her memories, she recalled the times she would watch her mother create beautiful works of art from the scraps they had collected. Each piece told a story, even if it was abstract. That was what Emily needed, her own unique blend of personal history and artistic expression. Art isn't just a technique, it's vulnerability, Emily murmured, feeling the knot in her stomach slowly loosen. I can build on what I know to create something raw and real. Yes. That's it. Jim exclaimed, encouraging her further. Bring your honesty to the forefront. Find your way of depicting the challenges you faced, and show how they've shaped your creative process. You'll not only captivate your audience but also reveal your potential. As the words sank in, Emily felt a newfound sense of authority swell within her. She could speak her truth instead of impersonating what she thought others dictated. This narrative, woven authentically, could resonate and challenge the norms, perhaps even capture the judge's attention. But then it hit her again. Would it be enough? The weight of competition was no light burden. The fear of rejection loomed large. Was she strong enough to peel back layers of her soul and display them for judgment? The answer sprouted in her mind, a message she needed to deliver to herself as much as to her audience. I must embrace the fear. It allows me to explore my own narrative. And if they reject me, then it simply means they don't recognize my voice, which means I'm not done yet. She dove back into her work, her fingers dancing across the keys, typing, erasing, molding her thoughts into something cohesive. Ideas flowed unfiltered from her pen, reflecting the uncharted terrain of her life. As the ink dried, she paused mid-sentence, her heart racing once again. What if I fail and people see me as a joke? The question hung in the air like a threat just waiting to strike. Emily, Jim interjected gently, grounding her spiraling thoughts. It may hurt, but those judgments don't define your worth. They could be a stepping stone to something greater. Determined, Emily responded, then let them judge. I'll turn that into fuel for growth. With renewed vigor coursing through her veins, she dove deeper into her project. Each stroke of her pen became a testament to her resilience and a lesson in self-acceptance, but as she typed the final sentence, the idea crystallizing in her mind, her phone buzzed again, this time with a notification that demanded her attention. We regret to inform you. A chill crept down her spine. Was this the final test of her strength, or merely the beginning? Her next steps lay entangled in uncertainty, and with a racing heart, Emily braced herself for what lay ahead. Emily stared at her phone, the notification still glowing ominously before her. We regret to inform you. The phrase pulsed like a warning siren in her mind. She pressed her lips together, wishing she could disappear into the screen itself, escape the growing pit of dread in her stomach. What does it say? Jim asked, his voice tinged with apprehension as he leaned forward. I don't know yet. The admission felt like a chasm opening beneath her feet. Each passing second drained a bit of her resolve. She had spent countless hours pouring her heart into this project, weaving her fears and dreams into something tangible, something she could proudly present. If this message was another rejection, she anticipated the repercussions echoing deeper than any words could convey. With trembling fingers, she opened the message fully. The cold text informed her of the latest updates to the competition rules, conveying new expectations that made her head swim. They wanted more innovation, sharper creativity, and an ability to share one's personal narrative in an engaging format. Emily, Jim said softly, breaking through her fog, what's it say? The rules are more stringent now. They want us to connect with the audience on a personal level, share our stories. Then you're golden. This is your moment. He leaned back, confidence radiating from him like sunlight. You've been working on this your whole life. Yet, despite Jim's enthusiasm, the specter of doubt loomed larger. But what if my story isn't compelling enough? What if nobody wants to hear about my struggles? The fear whispered that her narrative could be trivialized, reduced to mere dramatics. Would it resonate or fall flat? A vulnerability exhibition seemed daunting. The idea of exposing her innermost fears to potential critics made her nauseous. Remember what we talked about, Em. Jim's steady gaze anchored her spiraling thoughts. This isn't just a competition. It's you bringing something unique to the world. Everyone has a story, but not everyone has your experience. His words sparked a flame in her heart, illuminating the shadows of uncertainty. Was this not the essence of art? To peel back the layers of oneself and share the raw, unfiltered truth, however uncomfortable? As moments passed, Emily recalled the children in her neighborhood who dreamed up their own fairy tales in the summer sun, the stories they shared under the canopy of dried leaves. They weren't perfect tales, some were messy, some humorous, but they were real. She needed to tap into that spirit, embrace the imperfections that made her journey authentic. Taking a deep breath, Emily reached for her notebook, flipping to a fresh page. This wasn't just a project, it was an exploration of who she truly was. She envisioned her mother's crafts, every piece imbued with the love of a life lived in vibrant hues, the messes transformed into masterpieces. She needed to merge her artistic expression with those moments like a tapestry, rich and colorful, blended seamlessly with a message that mattered. With renewed determination coursing through her veins, she began to write. The ink flowed freely as she gouged her deepest fears onto the page. Memories of watching her mother create art from chaos served as inspiration. Emily sketched her heart, searching for lessons hidden among her stories, the loneliness of her youth, the joy of unexpected friendships, the bittersweet pang of passing dreams. Each paragraph became a brick in the foundation of something spectacular on the horizon. This was no longer just a commitment to a competition, it was a declaration of her identity as an artist, a chance to redefine what vulnerability meant for her. But just as she began crafting the final lines of her narrative, a new notification pinged on her phone. As she stole a glance, her stomach dropped again. It was a direct message from a former mentor, containing harsh words marking her progress and questioning her artistic legitimacy. With a shiver of anxiety washing over her, Emily realized that this was the moment she sought the confrontation, igniting her internal struggle. The time had come to face not only the competition but also the shadows of self-doubt that lingered in her mind. Emboldened and afraid, Emily crafted her response, knowing that what she said next could alter the course of her trajectory. Would she bow to the criticism, or rise above it, solidifying her resolve? Emily stood, trembling slightly, as she faced her laptop. The dual nature of her upcoming project, both a competition and a personal exploration of her identity, demanded her unfolding courage. This was her moment to showcase the unique narrative that had shaped her journey, and she vowed not to let fear dictate her direction. In that instant, the weight of her past blended with her dreams for the future, forging a path she could finally embrace. With newfound firmness, Emily decided to channel her frustration at the messages and judgment from others into her art. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, embodying a passion that felt electric. As she delved into her childhood memories, she began to weave stories of resilience and creativity, each more vibrant than the last. She reflected on days spent watching her mother transform scraps into masterpieces, each creation a testament to the idea that beauty could emerge from chaos. This was what she wanted to convey in her submission, not just her artistic vision but the authenticity of her journey. As days blended into nights, Emily committed herself entirely to conceptualizing her proposal. She sought out the emotional resonance within her experiences and crafted her narratives to reflect that essence. Each word became a brushstroke on her canvas, shaping a larger narrative that broke through conventional expectations. She wore her heart on her sleeve, confronting her fears openly in her words. Meanwhile, Jim observed her transformation from a distance, recognizing not just Emily's artistic growth but the profound shift within himself. Where once he felt the weight of parental guidance heavy upon his shoulders, he now embraced a more collaborative approach, trusting her instincts and creativity. The culmination of their conversations had nourished an evolving relationship, one rooted in respect and mutual support, a partnership stepping boldly into the unknown. As the submission deadline neared, Jim's support morphed into anticipation. He would often ask her how she felt about her progress, each inquiry building her confidence. And each time Emily answered, she felt the doubt loosening its grip on her heart. She was no longer a child trapped by expectations, she was a creator intent on making her mark. On the day she finalized her proposal, Emily felt a mixture of anxiety and exhilaration surging through her veins. She reviewed her work one last time, her heart pounding with the excitement of impending possibilities. This wasn't just about winning or losing, it was about expressing her voice and honoring her path. She sealed the submission and released it into the world, feeling a surge of pride that enveloped her like a warm blanket. Hours later, the weight of anticipation was broken when an email notification lit up her phone. It felt suspended in time, a moment that promised to redefine everything. As her heart raced, She opened the message to find warm congratulations and an invitation to showcase her project at an upcoming exhibition, a concrete recognition of her effort. Tears welled in her eyes, a mix of catharsis and triumph washing over her. Not only had she been selected, but she was invited to share her story, putting her on the cusp of a new chapter. In that moment, she experienced an overwhelming wave of fulfillment. This was the victory that came not from competition but from self-discovery. Meanwhile, Jim felt pride swell within him as he embraced the momentous change not just in Emily, but within himself. His daughter had stepped into her identity, shattering the confines he hadn't realized he had placed around her aspirations. He witnessed the vibrant, authentic artist she was becoming, an individual ready to embrace the thrill of her creative passions without the weight of expectation. And the days that followed, they navigated through uncharted territory together, exchanging ideas and celebrating the potential of Emily's exhibition. It was a portrait of growth grounded in mutual respect that echoed through every conversation. Jim had learned to value Emily not just as his daughter but as a dynamic individual, capable of determining her own future. Now, as Emily prepared for her exhibition, a profound realization illuminated both their paths. This was not merely about the competition. It was a celebration of transformation, trust, creativity, and understanding. The journey they'd embarked on had integrated lessons far beyond mere artistic aspirations. It would lay the foundation for the empowered lives they were meant to lead. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to support the channel and join the conversation surrounding personal growth. Don't wait even one more second to share.